All right, welcome. Thank you all for joining us, whether you're joining on Zoom or on Facebook Live. We appreciate it. We know Saturdays are a day usually of rest or of chores. So we appreciate you guys taking the time to learn about our programs today. And we'll try to stay on point so that you guys can get about your day. My name is Jason. I am with Central Rappahannock River Habitat for Humanity. And we are here today to talk about our mutual self-help program. So thank you all again so much here. All right, so again, today's presentation is our USDA 523 Mutual Self-Help Program. And we do serve Caroline, Essex, King and Queen, Richmond County, and Westmoreland County. A few notes just to things to be aware of. We are on Facebook Live. So if you're joining on Zoom or anything like that, if you got your camera on when you ask questions, or even if you ask questions, they will be on the Facebook Live. You can also type them in the question box if you have questions, if you don't want to go on Facebook Live. And of course, on Facebook Live, you can just type the questions under the comment section. One note, the Facebook has a little bit of a lag. So what I do to that, just to make it more smooth, any questions that you type in Facebook, or usually all of them, we answer those at the end of the presentation. But I encourage you, ask the questions as you have them. Very often we may just not cover that yet, but you might have a question that nobody's asked before. So it's always good to ask your questions. Again, you can type them in the box, or you can, there'll be a time at the end where if somebody wants to go on verbally, we can. All right. Also, be sure to write down the presentation code that we give to you if you want to apply. We want to make sure that everybody knows what they're applying for. So that we do that. There is a code that we kind of give throughout the presentation, and you're going to want to write down the code now, the first part of it, and I'll give you the rest of it throughout the presentation. The first part of the code is JT. The first part of the code is JT. Again, I'll give you some more code throughout the presentation so we know that you've watched it. This will also be uploaded on our YouTube channel after, either by the end of the weekend or Monday, depending on how quickly we can get things done. So if you want to go back, it'll of course, they stay up on Facebook for 30 days before they delete them there. But it will be permanently left on our YouTube channel. All right. I also like to mention at this point, if you do end up applying, you're applying for a program, not a loan, but the goal is to assist you to secure a loan at the appropriate time. But we do like to indicate that because when you apply for a home loan, there are certain laws as far as how quickly we have to respond, and even give you loan estimates and all of this stuff. And all of that does come, but the first step is literally just to apply to get in the program. And then later on, at the appropriate time, we do assist you with getting the loan that will allow you to become a homeowner. That's one big part of the program. All right, so who are we? Some of you guys may know us as Caroline County Habitat for Humanity. In fact, if you were to look on our 990 and on GuideStar, we're still listed as Caroline County Habitat for Humanity. But in 2025, we expanded. And so now we're doing business as Central Rappahannock River Habitat for Humanity, because we now do cover 5 counties: Caroline, Essex, King and Queen, Richmond County, and Westmoreland County. And I do like to mention, we're local focus, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't help you if you live in a neighboring county. The whole thing is, we want you to understand, if people are applying, let's say they live in Essex, you get priority if you're already living in that county. Or if you're already in Caroline, for example. Now, if we don't have enough folks to build, then we will bring in folks from outside of the county. I've never, ever had to turn anybody down, honestly, that's applied, even the folks that maybe live in Fredericksburg or Spotsy that have been coming to Caroline. Most of our building over the last 5 years has been in Caroline. So we have a lot more people apply in the Caroline County in that area, simply because we have built a number of homes. So there's a lot more visibility. If you've driven through Bowling Green in the last few years, you've probably seen we were the first ones to build new homes in about 4 or 5 years that were actually in the town. And so they're right there on Broadus Avenue. There's 3 of them that we built. So a lot of people in Caroline know about us. But we're eager to start building in Essex, King and Queen, Richmond County, and Westmoreland County. And we do have projects at various stages in the pipeline there. So we're trying to find folks who live in those counties in particular, who would like to be the first to have homes partnered with us in those areas. But again, we are also looking for folks in Caroline County as well. So who are we? Habitat for Humanity was founded in 1976 by Miller and Linda Fuller in Americus, Georgia. Locally, our chapter started in 1996 in Caroline County. A big moment for us was in 2019 when we got approved for our first USDA 523 mutual self-help grant. That really exposed us to a lot of the federal programs and funding that are available on a federal level, and honestly exposed us to training that we never even, exposed a whole new world of opportunities. Not just self-help, but we really got acquainted with the USDA Rural Development Department and all the various programs that they have. So we really are proud of that partnership with the USDA. In 2025, I mentioned, we did expand from a single county to cover 5 counties. And again, if you look for us on GuideStar, if you're trying to do homework about us, you're going to find us under Caroline County Habitat for Humanity. But it is noted that we are doing business as Central Rappahannock River Habitat for Humanity. All right, so one thing I like to talk about is Habitat for Humanity. There's certain things that are in our DNA that you're going to find everywhere, regardless of what Habitat for Humanity you go to. There are certain things. Now, a little bit about Habitat: we are all responsible for our own fundraising, for our own programs, if you would, to develop our own programs. So how we do it may be a little different than how our neighbors do it or how somebody does it, Habitat does it in California, but there are some things that are similar everywhere. Every habitat requires sweat equity. That's where the participant helps build their home or volunteer in a restore, if it's a habitat that has a restore, or in the office, whatever the case may be. The sweat equity lowers the cost of the homes by the volunteers and the homeowners building them, certain elements of it. But it also, if you volunteer in the office or if you're a habitat that has a restore, it lowers the cost to operate our programs, which in turn helps lower the cost of the homes. Then the second thing you're going to find in every habitat is we use affordable loans. Some habitats actually are the lender. They lend you the money themselves. Other habitats like us use third-party loans, like the USDA 502 direct loan, which we'll talk about more in a little bit. But every single one of us uses affordable loans to build new homes or to do home repairs. Now, currently in our county, we only do new homes, but some of our neighbors and many of our friends around the state, they do home repairs, and we are working towards that. It's part of our strategic goals to get to in the next 5 years, but we have to make sure it's sustainable if we're to do it. Then the next thing is many habitats, and I guess this isn't the case in every habitat. A lot of it depends on where they are and what's available, but most habitats use grants and savings programs, or both, to help further bring down the cost of the home or to provide another pathway for the homeowner to get a down payment, for example. One of them, for example, that we use almost with all of our clients, at least the ones that we can, we use a state program where it's a 10-to-1 match. So if you save $1,000, you get $10,000. And there's really no strings attached other than you have to have the savings account for at least 6 months. So most of our clients are in our program, and I'll talk more about the time, a year or 2 before we start building their house with them. So the savings program really works well. And believe it or not, that can be the difference if we can get somebody a home or not. If their income is right at that level, that $10,000 can make a huge difference. So we try to get as many people in that savings program as we can. But these are things, again, you're going to find. They may look a little different in every habitat, but these are the common things you're going to find. We have some great friends to the north and the south and the east and west of us. And so, again, if you reach out and see what they're doing, it's going to be some elements of this. But again, they don't necessarily do the same exact thing. The big difference is our self-help program. That is a very small national program. There's less than 100 grantees in the nation. It's very hard to get into just because the funding is limited. But we're very fortunate that we are one of those 100 that are in this program, and it really allows us to serve our rural communities. That was the main reason we expanded, because we do feel that it's such a good opportunity that we wanted to expand to those other counties. So what is self-help housing? Well, self-help housing combines sweat equity with the USDA 502 direct loan to make ownership possible. We get groups of 5 to 8 households. They all agree to build one another's homes. Of course, the community helps you, but no one moves in till everyone moves in. We assist you. The community assists you. But you as the self-help provider or your build buddy, which I'll go more into, we assist you in completing this process of getting the loan. Then we assist you with the process of building your home. We'll even assist you with the process if you have things in your credit you need to work through. We'll assist you with helping you get those resolved by giving you counseling and coaching and helping you come up with a plan that will get you loan ready, as we call it. So we're here to assist you all along the way, but it is a partnership. So we'll talk more about that partnership as we go along. All right. So the big thing about this program, the number one thing, is the sweat equity. It really is an essential part of making homes affordable. And also, this is usually the biggest barrier when people tell me they don't apply. This is usually the reason. But I want to start out and say that you can do this. It may sound overwhelming at first, but simply just by following a lot of the practices that will coach you along, you can achieve this. It is like having a part-time job for a year, though. So there is that element of it. You do have to balance certain things in your life that we just can't do for you, but we can give you tips. We can give you best practices. We've had 14 people go through this already. We have 8 people starting now. We actually just closed on our first home loan for a participant of where we're building in Ladysmith right now. So we're going to have some homes that are being built, and you can even come out and help these folks build their homes if you want to, or if you want to learn more about the process before you actually did apply. You can come out and volunteer, and you can literally meet the folks who are getting the homes or building the homes we're doing now. But it's 24 to 30 hours a week. Now, we typically try to keep it no more than 24. As long as we have volunteers showing up, we are able to do 24. But like, for example, when COVID happened and volunteers couldn't come out, everybody had to do 30 hours. That's the only way we could get them done. So there is the caveat 24 to 30 hours, but our goal is to try to make sure that it's no more than 24 hours, because we realize that is a tough thing to do. But you don't have to do it alone. You can have what's called a build buddy, and these are really essential, especially if you're a single parent or if you're a single person who works and has other responsibilities. Build buddies are usually friends or family members that care about you and love you and want to see you successful. So they say, hey, I'll help you get your sweat equity hours. So how it works is, if you have, let's say we'll start with the most amount of build buddies. If you're disabled, if you have a medical disability, then we can get a waiver where other people, your friends and family, can do all of your sweat equity for you, but your sweat equity people have to show up. We call them build buddies. So if you're disabled, you can get up to 3 people to get your hours for you. Now, if you're a single person, there's only one adult over 18 in the home or applying for the home. You as the sole occupant, and obviously we don't make your kids do the labor. That's not part of it. They should be going to school and stuff. There there are certain ways that if you have a 17-year-old or something like that, that they can help out, but it is limited because of OSHA laws. So now if you're a single person, you can recruit up to 2 build buddies. And even if you're a couple, either married or non-married, I've actually had a mother and daughter go through this program before as well. And they were both on the loan, but you can recruit up to 1 person. So the idea is every household has 3 able-bodied build people to show up and get your hours each week. All hours are logged and accounted for. You have to sign up at the beginning of the month, the days you're going to be there that month. And it's online. And this is required because we have to maximize efficiency. And so my build team can look at who they have on a Wednesday, who they have on a Thursday, Friday, and a Saturday. And we can make sure that we have the appropriate tasks on hand with the number of people we have. Also, we coordinate with a lot of volunteer groups that come out. And so we want to make sure that it's safe and we know who's going to be there. So it's a big part of it. You do have to sign up by the first of the month, what you're going to do that next month when we're building your home. All right. So one thing that's really important is, and I mentioned sweat equity is usually the reason why people tell me they don't apply, is you really have to have a plan in place before, I think at least have a plan sketched out in your mind before you move forward with applying. Now, that doesn't mean you necessarily have to have all the pieces in place, because I'm really a person of faith, and I believe that there are some times in life you do have to step out in faith. Now, that's not total blind faith. We don't want you to, if you have 1 day off a week and you're going to apply and think you can get all your hours in 1 day, that's, and say, I'm going to step by faith. That obviously is not going to work. But the point is, oftentimes you have 12 months or so to get it all figured out before we start building your home. So you can kind of, oftentimes your build buddies will change too. By the time you apply for the program and the time we start building your home, life happens. Your build buddy might have moved away or got sick or something like that. So, but the idea is have a plan in place. Usually that starts with looking at who you have in your circle of friends and family, and write down a list of people who you could maybe talk to about helping you get your sweat equity hours. And it's not always who you might think. Oftentimes you might have that retired uncle or grandfather who is free a lot more than others. And maybe they're, in their 60s or even early 70s. Now, obviously, we're not going to have a 70-year-old crawling on a roof or anything like that. But oftentimes those build buddies can be some of the most valuable people on the build site. Why? Because they usually have some life experience. If they don't, if they didn't do construction, they've probably done handyman stuff just through life. Everybody does it. So they come with a lot of knowledge and skills. And also they can come during the week. And what we found is a lot of our self-help participants, and this is a challenge I'll talk more about in a minute, but a lot of them can only come out on Saturdays. And if we have, let's say, a group of 8 and everybody in that group can only come out on Saturdays, well, then that group just would not be successful, because we can't build a house only working 1 day a week. So when we select a group, when we place you in a group as part of the process of applying, you tell us what days of the week you can show up to get your sweat equity. And so we have to align to make sure that we have people there 4 days a week. Now, we don't have to have everybody there every day, but to give you an example, if we do have 3 people for every house of 8, that's 24 people. And so you divide that by 4, that is what, 8 people a day over 4 days or something like that. My math could be wrong. I think I need another cup of coffee. But the point is, you're spread out over the week, and that makes it a lot more doable. But what we found is Saturdays do tend to be a little bit heavier day with more people there on Saturdays. You might have 12 of the family members there on Saturdays, where on a Wednesday you might only have 5 or 6. But the idea is you do have some every day. And then, of course, the community comes and helps. And so there's volunteers that are out almost every day. Certainly every Friday, we usually have a group or a church or a business that comes out. We reserve those a lot of times for businesses because, they do that for team building and want to give back to the community. And Fridays are a good day for that because then everybody is off usually on the weekend. So it doesn't cause as much disruption with their normal office. They can work Monday through Thursday, then come out and give to the community on a Friday. So Fridays and Saturdays typically do tend to be the heaviest days of volunteers, and also the heaviest days for the surrogates. But we have to have a group that there are people there on Wednesdays and Thursdays as well. So when we select you as a participant and align you in the group, we have to make sure we have enough diversified enough schedule that we have people to work every day again. So that's part of our selection process when we align you with the group. And could be the difference between, do you wait 12 months or do you wait 24 months, because again, we got to have a group and a team that will work. So again, have a plan to get your sweat equity. List down the people in your life that might help. You might have folks at church you can ask. You might have friends at work you can ask. Maybe you're off on a Friday and you have a coworker that's off on the same day and you say, hey, do you think you could help? Maybe every other Friday you could come and help me get my sweat equity. And if they're off on that same day, well, then, that Friday you've gotten 16 of your 24 hours, so that's almost 2/3 of 24. So that makes it a lot easier to do. But it is, we'll also give you other tips. And as you tell us about what's going on in your life, we can brainstorm with you and help you come up with a plan to be successful. Again, people have done this over 60,000 times. We've done it 14 times just in Caroline. So they can do it. I know that you can do it as well. It's just a matter of having a plan and just thinking through the process and thinking through who you have in your life to help you. Now, some important things to note about the sweat equity. You do act as your own contractor. So when we apply for the building permits, they are in your name. They're not in ours. Your labor and the volunteers that help you, that essentially is your down payment. Our goal is to make sure that you move in with at least 20% equity. I am proud to say that most of our homeowners typically move in with closer to 30% equity. I've had some move in with as much as 36% equity. And what that equates to is we've had out of the 14, the lowest amount people have moved in was $25,000. The highest amount was $100,000. So the day you move into your home through using the self-help method, your wealth goes up because of the savings that you get on this home. That's why the sweat equity is such a vital part of this, because it really does lower the cost of your home. For example, the homes I'm building now, they're all appraising at $350,000. They're paying right around $300,000 for them. So they're moving in with $50,000 equity. That's one of the things that if you happen to be a teacher or a first responder or a veteran, our next presentation is that HEROES program. I'd like to make sure everybody understands the main difference between these two programs. One is there are certain jobs, but two is the self-help, which is open to those same groups as well. It's open to everybody, though, not just teachers and heroes and first responders. But the big difference why self-help is such a vital tool, you move in with all of this equity. If you do the HEROES program, if you happen to be somebody who is eligible for that, you're paying contractors to do things for you, whereas self-help, you're doing those things, saving on the labor. So both programs are designed to have an affordable payment. The goal of the payment is no more than 30% of your household income. That's what's defined as affordability. But the difference with the self-help model is, in addition to having the affordable payment, you're building wealth for yourself. And that really is a game changer, especially if you're making 38, 39, 42,000, whatever a year. It's hard to save money. So if you're in that income bracket, this is a great way to not only get an affordable payment, but really set yourself up with some wealth that will help you as you age, as you get older, or you leave it to your children, or whatever the case may be. It really offers a lot of security that is almost given to you the day you move in. Whereas if you do the Heroes program, you're going to get that equity, but it's as you pay your home down, as you pay off your loan, just like a standard person buying any home. But if you are a teacher or a first responder or a veteran, I do encourage you to check out that next presentation that will happen almost immediately after this one. All right, so some of the things about this: we manage all the books in the build site. So when it comes time to pay invoices and all of that, we get those. We have your budget. We have all of that stuff. We manage the build site. We get your building permits for you. You have to sign a lot of papers during this process, but we manage all of that flow of paperwork for you. You know, for example, when it's time to pay for the foundation, they install it and it passes the inspection. We know it's good. You actually pay out of a construction loan that we've secured you. So we'll show you the invoice, and you've already been there. You've seen it. You know what's going on. At that point, we have a check that has your name on it and then a representative from the USDA. You sign the check. You sign off on the invoice saying, yeah, the work was completed. And then the USDA signs the check too. That's how the vendors get paid. And that's one of the big things that's so good about this program is it allows us to do 8 at a time, because I don't have, you know, if you're talking 300,000 a home, I don't have $2.4 million to front and build homes for people. So we're actually using your money to build your home, and the folks that are in the program also as well. That is what is so good about this program, is it gives us the capital to do these kind of projects. Again, if you're watching on Facebook, we will answer questions at the end that are put in the comments. There's a little bit of a lag there, so I don't get to see the questions in real time like I do Zoom. All right, so a big part of this, you do sign a cooperative agreement with us, with the USDA, and with the other participants in your group. It's important to understand this cooperative agreement that you're signing. You own the home while it's under construction. What if? So why this is so important is, in this labor agreement, you say you're going to show up every week and get your hours. And this is why your build buddy is so important, that you have people you can count on, because you own the home while it's under construction. We're using your money to pay for it. So if it's a hole in the ground, you own that hole in the ground. If it's a dried in house but nothing else, you own that. Now, you don't make your payments on the home until you move in. That's important to know. But you do own you own the lot before we start building. You own that hole. You own the foundation. In the labor agreement, you say you'll get your hours. If you fall behind 15 hours, we stop ordering materials for your home. If you fall behind 30 hours, we stop building your home and we'll work on the other ones. If you fall behind 45 hours, unfortunately, you are kicked out of the program. And again, this is the rub. You own the home. So everybody else's homes will continue to be built. When they're finished, they will then and move in. They'll have to start making their payments. You would have to start paying your home payment too. And this is the problem. Most people can't afford to pay for a home that they can't live in and pay for their rent. So what happens is, you usually will, most of the time, people sign the home back over what's called a deed in lieu of foreclosure. So it's not a foreclosure. You're just saying, hey, I can't do this. Here it is. And it won't totally destroy your credit, but it will definitely impact you for a couple years. And it's something you want to avoid at all costs, because it will show up on your credit report, and it will, you know, impact your ability to get credit for a few years. Now, if you don't sign it back over, you could try to build it yourself. But one, the loan usually isn't enough to cover contractors to do it, because remember, you're saving money on the labor. So it would be hard for you to do that. And two, we provide all the big tools, all the tools. And so you wouldn't have access to any of the tools that we have if you decided I'm going to finish it myself. So it's almost impossible to do if you're kicked out of the program. So if you didn't make your payment, they would actually go to foreclosure, just like any foreclosure. And that obviously can really devastate your credit. So we want to avoid that at all costs. But it is important to understand that element of it. That's why when you pick a build buddy, you do try to pick somebody who has shown they're reliable to you. Now, things happen in life. You will lose build buddies sometimes. You know, people get sick, people's job happens, kids get sick. And so it's good to have some backups in the event that your build buddy can't make it. But it is very important that if at all possible, that you don't switch build buddies. I'll tell you why. How the process works with self-help, we'll dry the first home in. That means we get it under roof. Windows and doors and all of that wouldn't even be on it yet. Siding wouldn't be on it, but there's shingles on the roof, so everything is safe, right? We move to the next one, we dry it in. Move to the next one, dry it in. And if there's rain, we go back and we work on the inside of the homes to get them done. What happens is the first home is pretty slow because a lot of times it's you get training beforehand. You get basic training on OSHA stuff, on tools, but you're actually doing it. And so that's a difference than training. So you get a lot of training on the job and as well as the volunteers. So the first home is kind of slow. It might take 2 weeks to dry this home in. By the time you're on the 8th one, it might only take 2 days. The reason being is it's the same people. You 24 in your group are the same people showing up week after week. So you're doing the same things over and over. We have 2 different house models, but yet they're similar enough that, oh yeah, I know how to, fasten the wall to the floor. I know how to, caulk the electrical outlets. So you learn that and you get better. So if your build buddy changes out, you lose all the knowledge that they have, and that causes it to take longer to build. And so if you're in the group of 8 and your build buddy keeps dropping out, everybody in your group is going to be like, hey, what's going on? This is going to slow us down for getting into our homes. So, there's a bit of self-governance there that you as a group, you guys got to all kind of have, the same basic understanding of what's expected of one another, because you're going to spend a lot of time together. And then guess what? You're going to live next to each other. And so we don't want you guys hating each other, right? Like if you don't get just like don't put in the effort and just show up, for example, but don't really do what you need to do, it's going to cause resentment. And we don't want that resentment to cause issues, with your new neighbors and just with the group in general. So, again, having the build buddies that are going to be there every week is really a vital part of making this successful. All right. All right, now there is some tools that you're going to have to get as the participant. I tell people tools are like tennis shoes. You can get a pair for $4.99 or you can get a pair for $10,000. Tools are the same way. These are the tools you're going to need, and the main reason you need them is safety reasons. So you're going to need a hard hat, and quite honestly, we usually can get those for you. In fact, we just had somebody donate a bunch of hard hats to us last week, so we got a bunch of them. But if all the hard hats are damaged and we don't have a good hard hat for you, then you are going to have to buy one. Before you start building, we do bring you together with your group and we'll go over all of the tools that we have. If people donate tools, again, we don't make you buy them as long as we have them. But you have to always show up to the job site with your hard hat, with your safety glasses, with your gloves, and with your tool belt. So safety glasses, especially if you wear prescription, we recommend that you get something that will either fit over your glasses or you go ahead and spend the money to get prescription ones. I actually have invested in prescription ones, and I was able to get them for about $80 through a website called Zinni. But safety glasses are so important for you on the job site because you're using chop saws, you're doing things, and getting stuff in your eye is one of the number one ways people get hurt on the job site. The next thing is gloves. Obviously, if you're like me, most of my work is in an office, although I do go out on the job site. I actually have to sign paperwork with our insurance company that says I'm not doing the actual work in order to keep the rates down. Crazy. But I used to actually work on the job sites once upon a time. But you need gloves. You avoid getting splinters that way, blisters, all of that stuff. And then a tool belt. You may ask, why is a tool belt needed for safety? Okay, I'll give you a reason why. You're on a step ladder. You have to nail a board in. And if you don't have your tool belt with your ladder on your waist, you got to go up and down that ladder. And every time you go up and down the ladder, that's a risk of falling. And not only that, somebody else might be 6 feet away at the other end of the board and they need to nail in their side. So both of you need to be able to be up there on that ladder and nail in the board, appropriately or whatever you're doing. So having the tool belt basically allows you to have what you need where you need it. And then the tools you're going to need is a hammer. And we recommend that you get one that, works well for you. If you can get different weighted hammers and different types of hammers. And my team will share those with you, the different types, when you're on the job site. When you have our first group meeting as a group, we'll show you the different types of hammers. Like there's a framing hammer, a finish hammer, and then there's just a general hammer that can be used for multi-purpose. And that's typically what we recommend. You also need to have a tape measure. And then you need to have a nail puller. A nail puller is a little small thing. It's one of the most useful tools in the world because guess what? Even professionals make mistakes. And that's a good thing about it, especially when you're doing framing. All you got to do is pull that nail out and shoot a new one in. So mistakes are not the end of the world. They're actually to be expected. But as long as you got the right tools and the right mindset, just like in life, you can always deal with the unexpected. All right, so a little bit about our homes now. This is so you've kind of went through the hard part, the one that the sweat equity, and figuring that part out. This is the cool part. This is what you're giving up. This is what you get for what you're giving up. You're giving up all your time. You're giving up all your energy for a year. These homes are amazing homes. Now, we do house locals first. So I got a group of 8, for example. Let's say we're building in Westmoreland or Caroline for that matter. It really doesn't matter. When we put the group together, we always try to put people in there that live in the county first. But Caroline, for example, is a commuting town, and many people live in Caroline, but they commute to Richmond, to DC, or to Fredericksburg, or to Ashland. As long as you feel that you can get to and from work and you're okay living in the county, then we're okay with that, as long as we have an opening for you. But we will give preference to the locals first. We get a lot of county support. So these local governments, I got to give them a lot of credit, especially Caroline County. They really care about their citizens. And although they want to see everybody have an affordable house, their first duty is to people that live and pay taxes already in the county. So they don't mind if I bring in, a couple people from outside of the county, but they're like, Jason, we want you to house our people working here, living here already, first and foremost. So, which is understandable. But I can tell you, I've never turned anybody down. Typically, in a group of 8, we'll have 2 or 3 people that maybe work in Spotsy or work in the city. In fact, the interesting thing has happened. We've worked with a couple bus drivers over the years that worked in city school or Spotsy school, and then they come down to Caroline and live here, and they end up working for Caroline County High School, which there's a huge shortage in drivers. So it worked out very good in those circumstances. So so it's not always bad when you bring in people from outside of the county if they're definitely filling those vital roles that are so necessary. And every job in the county is necessary, whether you're working in a restaurant or working at the bank. We need those in our counties. We need people to fill those positions. So we're all about it. As long as we have the room for you, we want to build with you and partner with you. The next thing about our homes that are really important to understand, they are very, very revolutionary. And I get made fun of a lot by my family because I talk about how revolutionary they are a little too much. But these homes are what's called age in place and energy efficient design. If you notice, looking here on this screen, and I got my cursor running over it, there's no steps to get in this home. But check it out. You see that right there? That is an actual foundation. There is a conditioned crawl space underneath this home. That's what allows us to get this super energy efficient design. Normally, when you have zero step entry, you have to do it on a slab home, and slabs just are not as energy efficient as a home that has a crawl space. We condition the crawl space so it creates a regulated temperature between your floor and the ground, so you don't have to worry about the changes in temperature as much. Also, you don't have to worry about mold and mildew growing under your house because the air is exchanged underneath it. These homes could actually qualify to get EPA Healthy Air certified. They're such well-designed homes. We even put on them what's called an ERV, and it's a new thing that's going to become more and more used in the industry. We've kind of done it before a lot of folks, but it exchanges the air in the house anywhere from 1 to multiple times a day, depending on what you have the setting on. But what that does is it takes, believe it or not, inside our homes are one of the most polluted environments that we can be in. So, a lot of Americans have asthma because of their homes. Our carpets, our flooring, our cookware, all of that have chemicals in them. They call them box chemicals, and they release in your home. And these chemicals, if you buy a flooring, oftentimes now you'll see a California state warning saying these chemicals cause cancer. Now they're safe for the most part, but they do cause, if you're predisposed or have genetic issues with your lungs and other things like that, if you have asthma running in your family, they can trigger those things and make them worse. So by exchanging the air in the home, you're taking out the bad air and bringing in good air. Well, this is the issue we've had in the past. Now in Virginia, as you guys know, it gets really cold, but then in the summer, it gets really hot and really humid. So you don't want to bring in that super cold air, and you don't want to bring in that pollen. You don't want to bring in that humidity. So this ERV actually filters that stuff out and exchanges the temperature. We call it the magic box, and it filters all the bad stuff out and brings the good stuff in without bringing in that hot and cold air. So these homes really are, if you have children with asthma, I can tell you their breathing will be so much better. I mean, if you think about it, we spend a third of our day or more in our homes. That's the number one place we're breathing air. So having good, healthy air is really vital and it's important. And these homes are super energy efficient. That's more and more important as you see power bills going up. We've all experienced that this month, I'm sure. I was shocked when I opened mine. I wish I was living in one of these homes now, but they're very affordable. Now, you may ask, what kind of choices do I get? Mostly you're going to get cosmetic choices. We can't move walls. We can't do things like that. Now, we do have 2 different models for a 3-bedroom, and we may be introducing a 3rd next year, but typically you'll get a choice of at least 2 different house models. If you get need a 3-bedroom, for example, you'll have 2. Now, if you need a 4-bedroom, I'll talk more about that. I only have 1 design, and they're harder for me to build. One, because they cost more, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But we do give you as many choices as you can. So this home here, the homeowner, he picked these types of columns. These are Craftsman style columns. He picked this roof line. He was able to pick his siding color, his shutters, all of that stuff, his door color. Then inside the house, the same thing. You'll get a choice of cabinets, and you'll see these cabinets are available in maybe 4 colors, maybe 8 colors. It really depends on what's available on the market at the time. But you'll get shown these are your options, and then you pick your options and you go. Now, many times though, especially in Caroline, we're starting now to build in neighborhoods that are HOAs, and they do have certain color restrictions. So we might give you a chart of colors and say, these are your choices. And that's because of the covenant restrictions that we're having to abide by that have been placed there. You'll pick out your floor color and all of that. We use that vinyl laminate floating floor. Very quality stuff. So you'll pick all of that stuff out. Of course, your paint color for your house. Now, we can't paint all the rooms in different colors. You might say, I want beige, white, whatever, and we'll do the whole house that way. Trim and ceiling are usually a different color. Now, you do own the home once you're done. So if you want to go back and paint a focal wall, or, that's so trendy now, you have one wall that's a different color than the others. You can certainly do that, but you can do that once we finish the home and you do that on your own time. But overall, your walls and all of that are going to be the same color with us. But again, you own the home. Once you're in it, have at it. If you want to paint a mural on your wall, go for it. It's your home. That's your privilege and that's your right. And we encourage it. All right. So now moving along to the loan process. This is really the next big part of it. And oftentimes this is where people get the most nervous because they think, oh my goodness, my credit. I'll be honest with you. This is easier for me to get you the loan than oftentimes it will be for you to figure out your surrogate part. This loan is amazing. I can't say enough about this loan. If anybody is on here, if you see your elected officials, either Congress or the Senate, make sure you tell them how much you appreciate this loan. It is a phenomenal loan. So one thing about it, most loans, if you go, you're going to find are 30 years. This loan for our homes are going to start at 33 years. Under certain circumstances, they can even extend it up to 38 years. So that really does make it, that when you spread it out over more years, it makes the home payment lower. So it makes it more affordable. In addition to that, they can give you an interest subsidy under certain circumstances and certain income levels. So today, for example, the interest rate is, I think, 5.5%. If that 33 years and that 5.5% doesn't get you to the 30%, they can give you a monthly interest subsidy, lowering it to as low as 1% if need be. So you might get a $200 subsidy every month or $150 every month. And so that really, really makes it affordable. You make your payments directly to the USDA. Now, there are income requirements. There are maximum and minimums. The maximums are set by the USDA. The minimums, they're going to be set by market conditions. Then they vary by county. Let's go to the next page here. Wait, actually, let me go back. Oh, sorry. Let's mention about the minimums first. The minimums are influenced by what does it cost me to buy the lot and what does the county charge for building permits, for, sewer, water, those types of things. Are we using septic? Are we using public water? All of that stuff is all variables that are going to change county by county. Pretty much from the foundation up, the price are going to be the same in every county, right? A 2x4 costs the same. There might be a little bit higher delivery fee if we're having to go to, say, king and queen, but it's not going to be this significant difference. The real difference is in what does it cost us to buy the lot? What does it cost us to develop the lot? And it costs more to develop lots in like Caroline, for example, than it does king and queen or Richmond or whatever. So, so that's how the minimums are required based on what the market conditions are. And actually, I need to update this. They did raise the interest rate to 5.5%. So I need to update that. But right now, if you were to close on a loan, it would be 5.5%. And we do use the USDA 502 direct loan. And this is another cool thing about it. The loan requirements are not as strict as you would find in the, the for-profit world. Now, they do have the same basic requirements, but they do have a little bit more wiggle room, if you would. The most important thing, there's really two things that are the most important. Everything else can be usually resolved over time, whether it takes you 6 months to get loan ready or 12 months or 18 months. It's just a matter of time. But these are things that have to be in place. The first one is you have to have 2 years of stable, dependable income. So we need 2 years of tax returns and 2 years of W-2s that show you make the amount of money that's required to afford this home. This is one of the things that is really kind of unique about this is a lot of folks, a lot of the lenders out there, if you, let's say you were working at Walmart and you went to Target and you didn't work for Target for 2 years and you apply there, say, sorry, you haven't worked for them long enough. This particular loan, as long as it's the same type of work, then they understand you might have left this company and went to this one because they're going to pay you $2 more an hour. And we get that. That's totally cool. What they don't want to see is gaps. So I left Walmart, I didn't work for 4 months, and then I went to Target. That would be a different story. But as long as there's no gaps in your income, you can have switched jobs as long as it's, you know, again, the same type of work. Now, if you were a receptionist and you decide now I'm going to do restaurant management, that might be a little different. We're going to have to basically talk to the USDA and talk to the underwriters about that. One thing about this is when we make a case for you, if there's any issues there, we can kind of say this may be, you can get an exception to the rule if you would. Not always, but one good thing I like about this, the USDA views you as a person, not just a number. So, for example, if you did have to take a month off of work and you switch jobs and you tell them why, let's say, for example, your grandma got sick and you went to North Carolina for a month and your employer fired you, right? You know, but then you came back and you immediately started working in a new job. We can explain that. That makes sense. As long as we can document it, that makes sense. So we, as your advocate, when we turn in your loan, we submit a cover letter where we say, hey, this is so-and-so. This is their credit score. This is their debt to income ratio. And then if there's anything we need to explain, we explain that in that letter. And they may ask for more documentation to back it up or whatever. But again, they're not going to just automatically say no. They're going to look at the case and figure out, okay, this makes sense. So that's what I love about working with the USDA and the folks there. It's about common sense, and they understand, again, you're more than a number. So as long as we can make it make sense, it's okay. But primarily, 2 years of stable, dependable income, unless there is, again, some exception that made you not work for a month or whatever the case may be. Now, the next one is a little bit less flexible. That's the debt to income ratio. And this number is really something you're going to find at every lender. It doesn't matter if you're buying a $2 million home or a $150,000 home. They're not going to lend you more than a certain amount based on your debt to income ratio. They don't want your home payment and all your other bills to be more than 42% of all your income going out. Why? Because not everything that you pay in bills is reported on your credit report. So I should say when we calculate your DTI, it is only on the items that are shown on your credit report. So we all know there's a lot of things that don't show up there. Your power bill, your phone bill, your car insurance bill, your grocery bill. None of that appears on your credit report. But what does appear on your credit report is your mortgage, your credit card payments, car payments, personal loans, student loans. So to calculate that number, and there's lots of websites to help you do it, you take all of those minimum payments, you add them up together, that's going to give you a number. And then you divide that by your monthly income before taxes, and that's going to give you a decimal point number. You just move it over 2 places, that's going to give you a percent. So ideally, I mentioned before, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. your payment of your home is 30%. So all of your other debts can't be more than 12%. And again, there's tons of help for you to calculate that. In fact, when we send you an application, we send you a spreadsheet that you can fill out and you can calculate your DTI. If you get in the program, you actually have to report your debt to income ratio to us every month. The reason being is we got a plan of when we're going to build for you when we accept you in the program, and it may be 12 months from now. If we see that all of a sudden your debt to income ratio is through the roof, then we may have to adjust. We may have to say, hey, you have to pay this back down again before you can get in this build. So it helps us ensure that when it's time to close on your loan, you are going to be loan ready. So if you're in the program, you do turn that into us each month so that you make sure that you stay eligible for the loan. Another thing is you can't have bankruptcies within the 3 previous years. As long as it's more than 3 years, then we can move forward with it. Now, you do need to also have a credit history that shows you will repay the loan. It can be traditional or alternative credit. Traditional is literally just when we pull your credit report and we look at it, but there are some people who don't have credit reports. In that case, we do what's called alternative credit. So you might show us where you're paying your rent every month. You might show us where you're paying your cell phone bill every month, or you're paying your health insurance every month. We have to have 3 things that show that you pay every month if you don't have a credit report. Now, your rent does count as 2 things. So if you got a rental agreement and you got a history of paying your rent on time, that counts as 2 of those items. But otherwise, we got to have at least 3 items to show. And now with your traditional credit, it does get a little bit easier if your score is above 640. But if you're below 640, we can still work with you. It just may take a little bit more paperwork and a little bit more explanation. So the idea is before we do actually turn in your loan, we try to get everybody to a score of 640 because it just does make it a lot easier. We don't have to verify as much stuff. So we work with you as a goal to get your score 640. But if the time is there and let's say you're only at 630, as long as we can make it make sense, then again, we can usually move forward with it. Now, these are the income limits and minimums. Caroline County obviously is on 95, so it is a lot higher income limit. The reason being a lot of the people that work in Caroline commute either to Richmond or DC, and so they oftentimes have a little higher income than other areas and maybe don't commute as much. So in Caroline County, a household that is between 1 and 4 people can make up to $86,550. And then you can see across the board there the income limits for each county. Essex is the lowest. You can't make more than $63,100. And then if you have a larger family between 5 and 9 people, you can see the income limits there. So if you're in Caroline, you can make up to $114,250, or in Essex up to $83,300. Now the minimums, they are hopefully going to be lower soon. Land costs have been astronomical recently. So in Caroline County, unfortunately, we're all the way up to $48,000 to get you to qualify for enough of a loan to build and own a home in Caroline County. And this shows you how much prices have went up. In 2019, we were able to get people making $20,000 enough of a loan to build a home. So in 6 years, the income limits have unfortunately more than doubled. But we are working on that. But right now, that's where we are. We are hoping to be able to, again, lower that, but it is hard. Now, in Essex and the other counties, we don't have as much history. So we did kind of have to go off of what are lots costing, what is the average home out there going for. And I'm hoping that once we get some history in there, we can lower this. But right now, we've set it at $42,000 for the other counties. All right. Now, there are some fees that are associated with applying for this. Credit report fees are really the only fee that you have to pay up front. credit reports cost a lot of money. And depending on where you are in the loan process, we may have to pull your credit 3 to 4 times. For example, if you apply and we need to help you get credit ready and you got pretty bad credit, we might have to pull your credit 2 times in a year. And over 2 years, that could be up to 4 times, right? The reason being is we need to know what's on your credit so we can coach you and make sure you get there and we can get you the loan. Now, to keep the cost down, what we're doing for the first initial application, we ask for you to turn in a free copy of your credit report. You can get that from annualcreditreport.com. Now, it doesn't have your credit score, but it does have your credit history, which we can calculate everything we need from that. We do pull your credit before we actually turn your application in for the loan. So there's no way around it. There's going to be somebody looking at your credit eventually. All right, and then there could be there is pre-home buyer education. Every one of these 502 loans do require you to do first-time home buyer. You can do that through Virginia Housing. They have an online program that you can do. You watch a little webinar, you answer some questions, and it moves you to the next one. Or you can go, there are folks in the region that we can connect you with. If you're more of an in-person type person, you can go do all of the training on a Saturday. You got to go in person. So most of our clients tend to do it online because they can do it, in the evenings or week, when they have enough time to do it. They just do a little bit at a time to get it done. But you have to complete that education before we apply for your loan. Excuse me, need to get some water there. All right, so you also go through some pre-homeowner education that we give you as a Habitat for Humanity. We do give you some training on maintenance, on the things that you need to do on your home. Some of that is also done again at the end when we close out your home, because we actually have the, like when we go to put your HVAC filter in for the first time, we have you do it, right? So this is something you're going to need to do. Depending on the filter you buy, filters can last for a month. They can be a 6-month filter. You can even buy 12-month ones, but I will tell you, any good HVAC person will tell you 12-month filters are not good for your equipment. They need to be changed out more. The 6-month ones are pretty good, but many people do swear by changing them every month. But I've got friends in the HVAC industry, and the research I've done, 6 months is okay. So when I go buy my filter, I pick out one that's rated for 6 months. And then you can also get some that are more geared towards people with allergies. They have special things in there to catch, pet dander and stuff. So filters are almost like tennis shoes. You can buy them for $7 or you can buy a $30 one. And usually I land in the middle when I buy mine. But the point is, we give you some training on your home so you know the things that you have to do to maintain and keep it up as a homeowner. And some of that's done before, some of that is done after. We also will sometimes refer you to partners to maybe learn skills. I'll give you an example. If you don't do email, you're going to have to do email with this group, because you have 8 different people, and you guys actually set up your own little committee and you communicate with one another. If there's any issues that are happening, you resolve them as a group together. So somebody in your group, you elect a president, you elect a vice president, you elect a secretary, and you guys have meetings, monthly or every other month, depending on what's going on. Some people like to meet more than others. You guys are the ones that decide that. And but let's say that the group feels that somebody's surrogate is slacking off. You guys might talk about that as a group to resolve those issues together. So you have to have emails to communicate. That was my point of that. And so if you don't have the ability to do emails, we might refer you to Goodwill, who has a very good training program for computers, or maybe the Area Agency on Aging, who might have computer skills for seniors if you're a senior, which, by the way, about 20% of the people in my program usually are seniors and they build their own home. So I want people to know age is just a number when it comes to building a home. Young people are encouraged. Older people are encouraged. Everybody's encouraged to. If you think you can do it, we think you can too. So you might have to learn email. Or let's say you apply and every month you tell us, I'm just terrible. I never have enough money left over after I pay my bills. You might need some budgeting training. So we might either help you ourselves by, helping you learn budgeting skills, or if there's one of our partners that happens to have a budgeting course, which many of them do, we might just refer you to them and you can get some training on that with them. And then also, as I mentioned, we're trying to lower the costs that we can help people get homes. So the reason I put this is requirements can vary based on funding sources used. The state of Virginia has a down payment program. Right now, it's not eligible to be used for self-help housing because you have to get an inspection before you close your loan. But you close on your loan before you build your home, so it doesn't technically get required. But I can tell you for 5 years, I have been advocating to our state legislature to change the rules so self-help can use this. And one day, I promise you, I will get that done. And so that's a 10% down payment grant. So on a $300,000 home, that's $30,000. Right now, I can't get it for you. But let's say that they just decided to vote it in place this year and you're in my program and I say, hey, if you take this training through HUD, I can get you 30 grand down payment. I think most people would say, sign me up, right? So I put that there because when you get in this program, it may be, again, a year or two before your house is built based on your circumstances. But if something is available, I want you to be able to access it. And again, we're lobbying them. And I'm even trying to get my homeowners, as they complete the program, to send letters of support saying, hey, this is great. But if you were able to get this down payment work, then, my sister might be able to afford a home or whatever the case may be. And so the more of us that are advocating for the state to make those changes, one day we'll make it happen. But it all starts with advocacy. And we do it every day for you guys. So there are some things that will be required. Again, it's all based on the funding we use. Right now, we pretty much just use the down payment. The 502 loan. So there's not a lot of requirements. But if I get things in the future, there could be more that would be required of you if you want to use those resources. So how long does it take? Again, I mentioned you're applying for a program, not a loan. There's a lot of things that we have to line up to make it work. The goal of the program is to get you a loan, to get you loan ready and have a home that can be built within your loan budget. Builds take about 12 months. So from the time we close on your loan to the time you move in with your group, it's going to be about 12 months. Now we're trying to get that down below 12 months, but a lot of that does depend on how many volunteers show up, how efficient you as self-helpers are. Let's just face it, some of us are more mechanically inclined than others. I've had some groups where swinging a hammer, it took them 2 months to learn to hit a nail on the head, right? Other times somebody come in 2 days, boom. So, and you never knew who it's going to be. Like, I had this one lady who she was sure she wasn't going to be any good on the build site. She was one of the best people because this is the reason why I think she was the best, because she came in there and she was humble enough to watch and pay attention to everything that was going on instead of thinking, oh, I can already do this, because you think, oh, hammering a nail is easy, right? And I use that as the obvious example because we've all missed a nail and it can happen. But she ended up being one of the best people because she paid attention to every lesson because she was so worried to get out there and wouldn't be good. And she ended up being like a supervisor. And that's one of the things that we say that makes it go faster. You as self-helpers, if we're doing our job right, we're recruiting volunteers. And and we got to get rolling. I got another one in 15 minutes, so I'll try to move a little faster. I apologize. But this is an important thing to know. So you as a group, you guys are getting this training and you're getting better, but you might have volunteers that are different every week. So you as self-helpers almost become supervisors. You're going to work, don't get me wrong, but when we have a group come out, they're not going to come out there and watch you build. They want to build. So we give you enough training. So like, for example, you're doing siding, you know, you might not be a pro, but you know the things that most people mess up on siding. And with siding, I use that as an example because it's obvious. If you nail that nail too tight and there's not any wiggle room, believe it or not, siding needs to wiggle. If you see the wavy siding on homes, that's because they nailed that nail too tight. And because of expansion, because of the environment, you got to have a little bit of wiggle room. So you get the training, you get a group of volunteers. It's your job to oversee them, make sure it's done as according to you've been trained. And the idea is if you see something wrong, say, hey, hold on, let's stop a minute. Let's get the supervisor over here who's a trained professional. And they'll come over there, and before it gets all out of whack, they'll say, okay, let's readjust this. So you as a self-helper, if the community is responding, you're working, but you're working more as a supervisor role. And so the better we can train you to know the pitfalls and things that can go wrong, the better the houses look. And one thing that I am proud to say, people drive by our homes and they would never know that they were self-help homes. They would think these were built by professionals because they were, but we used you and we used the community to build them. But trust me, my team is professionals. I have one of the best builders in the state who's running the building department. He's got years of experience and just he knows everything about building. Pre-purchase, it can take 12 to 24 months. A lot of that does depend on when you apply. If you apply right now, we're looking for the folks who will start in spring of 2027. You may say, oh, goodness, well, I'll just wait and apply later. These slots do fill up. So if you don't apply now, 2027 might already be full by June of this year. Right now, it's not full, but once it's full, you're going to have to wait for 2028. So, and then the other part of it is, are you loan ready? We got to help you get loan ready. So now is a good time to apply because if there's anything we need to fix on your credit, we can coach you on what you need to do, and you got 12 months to get it done. Our goal of the program is to have you no more than 3 years. And that would be as if it took 24 months to get you loan ready. But I want to get everybody loan ready in 12 months if possible. But there are exceptions. So the idea is we don't want anybody in here waiting no longer than 3 years. 2 years to get loan ready, 1 year to build your home. But ideally, again, you know, I'd like to do it quicker. I'd like to get it in, 12, I'd like to build it in 10 months, and I'd like to get people loan ready in 6 months. But, that's not entirely up to me. I can have my goals, but it is a partnership. So we have to work together at a pace that we can go. And then we have a home buyers club. If you're not loan ready, that's really what you're applying for is this club. And we get you there. And I'll give you an example. Debt may be the reason that you're not loan ready. And you might need to pay $10,000 in debt. You might say, you know what? I am not going to get Starbucks until this debt is paid off. I'm not going to eat out till this debt is paid off. I'm not going to go to the movies till this debt is paid off. And all that sounds very admirable. That's usually not sustainable for most people. So what we do is we try to say, okay, if you did that, you'd pay it off in 12 months. But look, you're going to get some Starbucks. You're going to eat out some. So let's make this goal a little bit more realistic. Let's say you pay it off in 18 months or 24 months. We want to make sure you achieve success. And a lot of times, if you set a goal that's not really attainable, the first time you stumble, you say, oh, I ate out. I spent $100. I might as well just quit. I'm done. We don't want you to experience that. So it's about having a budget that's realistic, because that's really what life is. It's about budgeting not just our money, but our time, right? We only got so much time. So budgeting is a skill every one of us need to know, not just for money, but with our own time and energy as well. But we will work with you as long as it takes. I got a really good staff person who works on loans. Her name is Debbie. And she cares about everybody, and all of my team do. But we'll work with you as long as it takes to get you loan ready. Application fees. If you're a single person applying, so there's only one person on the loan, it's $60. If there's two of you on the loan, it's $115. And then as of right now, when we turn your loan into the USDA, and this isn't happening now. Remember, I said your loan applies later, but there's a $32 application fee with them. But you don't pay that until we actually submit your loan to them. Now, that can be subject to change. The USDA, when I first started this 5 years ago, it was only $25. Now it's $32. So, in a year, they could say it's $35. It's up to them. Multiple credit report fees if we have to keep pulling your credit. Again, that only covers one credit pull. So if you're somebody that needs multiple credit pulls, if you're not willing to pull your credit through annualcreditreport.com, you're going to have to pay us to pull your credit. But we'll work with you. If you don't have a computer and a printer and you're in the program, you can come in our office and literally pull your credit there from annualcreditreport.com. All right, so now we'll go to question and answer session, and we will start with the Zoom. Let me look in the comment section. I don't see any questions there. Let's see. And if you have any on Zoom, you can also ask them by voice if you want to. Just remember that it is broadcast on Facebook Live. Some people are comfortable with that. Some people aren't. And I am pulling up Facebook comment section now. And I don't see any questions in there. So usually what I do, at this point, I'm going to give you the rest of the code. And I'm going to tell you how to apply. All right, so the rest of the code is 3726. 3726. And I gave you the first part at the beginning of it. Hopefully you wrote that down. If not, type it in the question section now, and I will be glad to repeat it. All right, so the end of the code is 3726. All right, and if you want to apply, all you have to do is email or call the office. I will tell you, email is the best way. We have a small staff. My staff sometimes work remotely. And especially if the weather is real bad, we're in an old building. When it was cold, literally, yes, you got it. Yes, Key, that is the correct code. So like when the building, we couldn't heat the building above 60 degrees in this cold. So we all worked remotely from our homes. So I recommend if you're going to stop by the office, give us a call first. But we do try to be there Tuesday through Friday during normal business hours. But again, sometimes we're in and out, especially if we got active builds going on. My office staff might be running out to deliver lunch, or might be going out just to do a presentation to somebody in the county, So we recommend giving us a call before you stop in. But emails are 24/7. You can email us at info@crrhfh.org, info@crrhfh.org. When you call or email, make sure you include that code. If you leave a message, say, hey, my name is so-and-so. This is my address. Can you mail me an application? We'll be happy to do that. Just include that code in there. And then if you email, ask for the application, just include the code in the email. Now, it is a paper application. So if you don't have a printer, or you don't feel comfortable going to the library and printing or something like that, you might want to just tell us to mail you the application, and we'll be happy to do that if need be. But if you have a printer, we can send it right to you, and then you can print it, and it speeds up the process a little bit. All right. Well, I will give one last chance for any questions. Okay, let me check Facebook one more time. Again, this will be up on the YouTube page, and Facebook Live keeps the videos up for 30 days before it takes them down. Just refreshing Facebook one more time. All right, no questions. All right, so thank you all for your time. And if you have questions, you can also email those questions to info@crrhfh.org, or you can give us a call during the week, and we'll be happy to chat with you. Have a great day.